Welcome to Book Lunch by Libby. My name is Joe, and I'm so happy you're here. Today, we get a look behind the curtain from Emma Brodie. Emma is the author of Songs in Ursa Major and Into the Blue, a love story, out April 7th. And she's an executive director at Clarkson Potter. Emma, thanks so much for being here and for sharing more about the world of publishing and about your books with us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Joe. I'm thrilled to be here.
I am so excited to have you. I think it's going to be a great time no matter what we get into today, but I keep looking at your book behind you, and listeners, we'll talk about Into the Blue in a little bit, but you're not going to want to miss that. And by the time you're listening to this, it will be mere days away for you to get your hands on. But before we dive into that, let's get into publishing. It's not
Mm.
often that I get to talk to someone who has the chance to edit, who's behind the scenes is the everyday life. Like you are living in other people's work, you are planning things out. How did you first find your way into publishing? And did you always feel like editing was your lane, or how did you kind of get to today?
So I've been in publishing for 15 years. I started right out of college and began interning for a literary agency. And I just kind of wanted to learn the business. I was curious. I always knew I wanted to write, but I need a day job, and I figured I loved this kind of thing in school. I'm 22 years old. Let's see how it goes. I think I knew within 2 weeks that I'm not cut out for sales. Don't love rejection.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
having to deliver that, like,
well, yeah, either end of it, rejecting or being
right.
rejected when you're pitching the book. So I basically started looking for jobs within 6 months on the house side, working for a publisher, because I wanted the power of the buyer. And
Yes.
I got a job in 2012 working for Clarkson Potter, which is the premier illustrated imprint for Penguin Random House. So we do big, heavy hitting cookbooks, which like Ina Garten, Martha Stewart, like that crew. But then we also have a range of gift, games, and stationery formats, in addition to like coffee table books, which is more my area. So I was there for 5 years. I went to William Morrow for 3 years. I went to Hachette for 3 years. I went to Chronicle for a year. And then I came back to Potter. So you're getting me in
Wow.
this moment. I know my colleagues call it my walkabout.
But that's fun.
It's my favorite place. That's the dream, right? To go and find this place you love and then get to come back when you're a little more senior. So it's an absolute joy. And I think I knew that I wanted to be involved. Like I love to be in service to creative people. I love to be around them. I love to learn from them. And I think I didn't even know my job existed when I started in publishing. I didn't know there was such a thing as a humor editor or a gift editor. So when I figured that out, I was like, oh, this could be sustainable. Like this could be different than the plan of go in, learn publishing, and leave in 2 years. And here we are, 15 years later.
Take us through it. What does a day in your life look like? What are you working on? What can we expect? Like if we were to flip something over, we could go, oh, Emma had a hand in this.
Yes. I work on a huge range of projects. You can see some of them behind me.
Hmm.
Um, so on the bottom, we have sex checks, which are coupons, romantasy sex checks, which are
Love it.
coupons you can give to your friend who loves romantasy books. So that would be like an original IP project that we grew in house. We worked on the format with our internal design team, and we
Wow.
created that together. The next one up is called "'Tis Thee Not Me." It's hilarious. This book is coming out May 5th, by Clarice Tudor, who is a Welsh illustrator. It's a modern guide to dating, but it's drawn like a medieval illuminated manuscript. So like think like getting ghosted, but there's a moat. And so for stuff like that, I acquire that the traditional way through an agent and an auction. And Clarice and I have been working together for a couple years. We have another book coming out after this. Really excited about that one. And then there are a bunch of games around that and a couple titles from my backlist. This title on the top, Dear Love, just published. It's a gift that you would give to, your lover or your kid. It's actually doesn't discriminate whether it's romantic love or not, but it's a really beautiful sort of like book as card type thing. And that came to me through an agent as well. So I would say a third of what I do is through licensed publishing. Like I do work with some brands, like I work with Paramount. So I get to
Okay.
dip into fun properties like Star Trek or Avatar: The Last Airbender, both of which I'm huge fans of. Um,
Same.
As you'll,
Massive.
into the blue, like, So, so that's like one piece of it. We do this homegrown stuff. So I'll work on like large scale format programs. Like I'm doing an incredible program with the Mary Oliver estate. That's a bunch of different gorgeous like keepsake gift formats with her poems. And then the sort of original IP stuff. So there's no such thing as a typical day, which is one of the things that's great about this job.
Yeah.
I would say I try to group extroverted and introverted tasks together. So I'll try to put like I have 7 meetings today. So I'll try to
Oh
put
my
it all
gosh.
together. Well, because editing is such quiet work.
Right.
So when
You're
I'm
so
editing a
locked
book,
down to yourself. This needs to
yes.
be your chance of like, you can't go from, I feel like any day that I am in like Excel all day or I'm in spreadsheets, I'm working through documents, I'm like planning and mapping.
Yes.
If one meeting slips into my calendar, I feel like I start that by going, I'm so sorry, I'm just coming out of the matrix because it feels
Yes.
like I have to like lift out of it.
Yes.
So that makes
Yes.
so much sense to just jam pack a couple days
Yes.
of the week as the extrovert days.
Exactly. The like I put on an outfit day and then and then I
Absolutely.
try to do other days where it's more like insular introverted, like I can do close work and not be interrupted. So yeah, I just finished editing a book about psychedelics called Tripping Point that's coming out next summer. It's amazing. And it would just be this ritual every day. I'd get through all of my tasks and then sit down for an hour and get to sort of burrow down into this really interesting world and just kind of learn. It's such a joy. Like I would say like with as an editor, you wear a lot of different hats.
Mhm.
Like you're the book's main advocate in house, so you need to know a little bit about everything. You need to know a little bit about production and marketing and sales, um, and then also you have to be the author's main point of contact and sort of liaise. So there is a huge sort of schmooze factor.
Yeah.
But the part that I love the most is working on the manuscript with the authors. So even though that's only about 15% of the job, it is the thing that lights me up.
No, that makes sense. I'm still just stuck on the fact of like dealing with the manuscript is 15% of the job.
I know. It's wild. When I try to explain it to non-publishing people, they're like, "Wait, don't you have someone who does this?" And I'm like, "No, we are an impoverished British mansion where we keep the electricity on in one room, and I do all of this, and that is how it should be."
And we ignore all the leaks in the attic. We just keep putting new buckets down
Yep.
because we can't replace the roof.
Never.
Insurance didn't exist in the old British mansions. Haven't you
No
seen
way.
Downton Abbey?
Yeah.
One of our children has to marry wealthy.
Yeah. That's kinda how it is. You're just hoping that one takes off, so you never know which one it's gonna be. Yep.
So now I'm thinking of like, of the things that are gamified, of the things that are kind of more the gifting pieces of your day, what does editing something like that look like? I'm thinking of our listeners who this may be a lot of their first introduction to the world of editing. So
Yep.
what does it look like when you're editing a manuscript with an author versus when you are working with an artist or a team on IP, some sort of like project, whether it's IP, whether it's original?
Great question. So, for a traditional manuscript, that would be delivered as a Word doc. And I would typically do 2 rounds. One would be I read the book cold, don't do anything to it, just absorb. And then I do a structural edit. So, that would be if chapters need to move around, if sections need to be rearranged, if anything needs to be rewritten, if anything needs to be researched. Because
Mm,
I work in nonfiction, we can get ahead of a lot of that because typically my authors sell me a proposal so we can refine an outline in advance and typically the structure that we pre-agree on ends up being the structure of the book. But sometimes things come up. Like sometimes you end up finding 2 chapters worth on one source and you want to keep it in the book. Sometimes you end up
right.
finding a paucity of material and you can't actually do what you intended. So I'm here to help problem solve and get everything sort of in the right place. I would say that part is we're creating the block of marble. And then I do a second round, which is a line by line edit. So that's more language, syntax, and making sure any sort of logic holes, plot holes that I see on a line by line level are being called out. And that would be the sort of chiseling of the block of marble. And the author would review all of these edits and track changes. So both the structural, they'd give it back to me clean. I would do the line edit, they'd give it back to me, and I'd probably read it once more for a quick polish. And then it goes into copy editing, which is a whole other thing. And I think a lot of people conflate acquisitions editorial, which is content and structure,
Right.
with copy editing, which is grammar, syntax, and house style. And our house style at Penguin Random House is Chicago. So they are like living, breathing experts. And from there, with my books, there's also usually an art program. So that would include the author coming through with whatever illustrations or whatever vision they have for the design. And typically, I will already have a working design concept
Mm.
going around the time that we would give the text in to be copy edited. From there, it's really a process of feeding the two together. So with the more gifty titles, the format is probably leading a little bit more than the text. So my job there is giving design what they need, sitting with production and making sure we can afford everything. Like I'm the person who's in charge of the money. So
Yeah.
when you
You've
see
got the
like
purse strings. You're saying, truly, we're not fixing that roof.
right
A
or
little
or
less foil embossing today.
right, exactly, exactly. So I'm the or I'm the one who's actually going to dad and being like, "Can we please have some
Please.
foil embossing?" I
But daddy, I
swear it'll
love
fix the
him. Yeah.
roof. Yeah.
Right. I swear this is going to be the one.
Exactly, exactly. Well, and so working for an illustrated publisher, I would say the line between editorial design and production is much fudgier than it is elsewhere. Like there when I work with Valentine who publishes my book, my novel,
Yeah.
it's like very cut and dry categories of what people do, whereas at Potter like production will make content suggestions or design will make production suggestions. We're all kind of speaking the same language and working very closely because everything is kind of shifting. Like we have to constantly problem solve. So it's I really feel like my job there is to support the sort of I'm just gonna say it, the geniuses that I work with.
Yeah. No, totally.
And really like helping to deliver like whatever options that we can get for the author to the author, helping to fight to make sure the author gets exactly what they want. And I will say, like, a pride point at Clarkson Potter is we really do try to please our authors. Like, we will go many more rounds than a typical design process just because we do really care that people love their projects.
It makes a lot of sense. I appreciate your I wear many hats approach to this. I understand why it's fulfilling. I get completely why you're like, no, this is where I came back to after my walkabout because you get to do so much. And while cut and dry can be easy to live with or easy to work within, I think there's something really fulfilling about being able to turn to the geniuses and say, this is the vision from the author, but this is also the vision I have as we've been working on this. And here's, like, I don't know, there's something that's fulfilling in my brain about
Yeah.
everyone kind of adding to the recipe rather than, okay, thank you for the manuscript. Here you go, art. We need a cover with these 3 bullet points. Like, yeah, and there's
Yes.
nothing wrong with that, but
No. No, and I think it's interesting. I love that you just said that. I think it's really true because part of my picture is that I also write. So
yes.
having a day job that doesn't deplete me, like what I like to be busy, I want to work really hard and I want to be working hard to solve problems and make things. I don't want to be working hard to handle personalities. So
Yeah.
there's always a little bit of that. Like editorial is a customer service job, like full stop. I won't lie to you about that. But I think like getting to learn from the creativity and the ingenuity of the people I work with, that leaves me with energy at the end of the day to do my own stuff. And the other piece I'll say is that the manuscripts that I edit are typically 60,000 words and under, whereas a trade book would typically be well, so a trade nonfiction book would be like between 70 and 90,000 words, and a trade novel would be 90 to like 120,000 typically. So those editors are their schmooze factor is very high because they have to be in a lot more auctions than I do.
Yeah.
Whereas I can acquire forward inventory. So I can acquire 8 titles at once, which is really great.
Yeah.
Um, and also, they are putting so much of their creative energy into shaping and plotting and character development.
That, like,
Whereas,
full pack, not just the package of the book, but then also how you package the final piece off
Yes.
to, because I work with library marketing. So I'm even just thinking of like how they have to hand that to the library team versus how they have to hand that to the bookstore versus how they have to hand it to the end consumer. There's a lot of that while you're
Yes.
also creatively driving what you think the author is trying to do, but also where you hope to get them to.
Yes.
Okay.
100%. 100%. No, 100%. Um, and I think for me, it's like I want to keep my ideas for my own novels.
Mhm.
So, whereas being a sounding
Yeah.
board for a writer who is maybe they're wearing a lot of hats, like a lot of my authors do other things and they're writing their book about the thing they do. So, my job is to help them translate that. And we're not making things up. We are sort of packaging the truth in the most engaging way possible. So, to your point, it's like it's very similar to marketing and it's so fun, and one of the things that's, like, a huge luxury in my job is that I get to edit things I'm interested in, so I get to learn about things
Yeah.
from these experts that I work with, and it could be anything, like, I've worked on books about ritual bathing where you take a bath to enhance your aura, like, I've worked on books that are about intergenerational trauma between mothers and daughters, I've worked on books that are family monographs about famous people. Like it's crazy how many projects you end up touching over the course of 15 years and yeah, it's you learn from each and every one of them and it's I'm at the point where it's like even new problems you're like this is a new problem. I haven't solved this yet. Like great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say that like I'm also still stuck on the you can acquire 8 titles at a time.
Yeah.
Would you say that they have a longer shelf life? Are you actively working on all 8 of those? Or is there a bit of the like, this maps out a few quarters at a time, or maybe even a few years at a time? Because you can go, this will be great for something happening in 2027 versus like, this I have to get out within the next few months before trends die. Like, how do some of the reading and gifting trends impact you?
So many great questions in there. So no,
Sorry,
I love it. No,
you've got my
I
brain
love
just
it.
like running, and I'm like, I have to give you one at a time.
No, I love it. I'll see if I can remember them all, and you can prompt me
Yeah.
if I don't. So, okay, so basically acquiring multiple projects, it is what you just said about you plot them out over the course of quarters. So, we'll typically do no more than 2 SKUs from one property in the same period, and it depends on what the property is and how much hunger there is, to your point. We do sell for a very long time, which is again one of the things I absolutely adore about Clarkson Potter. So a typical book release, like a novel, you would put out as if it's opening weekend at a movie. You try to sell so many copies right out of the gate. Whereas with us, our model is a 5-year sales model. So we try
Wow.
to sell and sell and sell. And so and part of what we service is special markets accounts. So we do a great business with indie bookstores, of course, and also with Amazon. But we have really amazing relationships in the field, in the sales field, with specialty retailers. So if there's
Sure.
a like going off of my bath book, if there's a really cute bath store that sells oils and different candles and scrubs, they might also have our book. And if that account takes 3 copies, that's not going to make it a bestseller. However, 3 copies every month for 5 years is a really good model. So
That
that's
makes
what
sense.
we that's what we go for. And then as far as being facile for trends, this is this is sadly an illusion I'm going to have to take away. And
No, please.
it's an illusion to so many people we work with because if we're working with entrepreneurs, like you can produce anything quickly, right? Like if you like you could go on customink.com and print a t-shirt and have it next week.
Right.
That is not what we do.
Right.
So
Yeah, well,
our
because that makes
stuff,
sense to me. It makes sense that what you work on are the things that you see in the cute boutiques, are what you see in reflected in a specific traveling exhibit in the museum gift shop. Like,
yes,
I can see the placement, so I understand that there's not necessarily the length, there is longevity to what you're creating rather than it has to hit a certain flow before something, I'm thinking of like, yes, your romantasy checks make a lot of sense. Romantasy has boomed and cemented itself. But I think of, to take us back to our times, probably Twilight. When Twilight was
Yeah.
hot, all the vampire
When it
books.
was hot? What do you mean?
Well, hey, I know. My boyfriend and I watched it not too many weeks ago. He was like, hey, I didn't want to say this to you earlier, but I kind of want to watch Twilight. And I went, you're not going to have any complaints from me. I mean, there's never going to be a bad time for Twilight.
Never.
Put the blue filter on me now.
Yes. Give me those steak fries. They look so, I just crave them immediately.
And let me put my ketchup on the right way. He had never seen that. He had never noticed that before. And I was like, oh, babe, here comes the ketchup. And he was like, what are you talking about? I went, I paused. I went, you're about to pay so much attention to her hands right now. What is wrong with you? And it's like, what is wrong with you? But, important things. But so
Yeah.
I think of that where like then everyone was suddenly writing the next great vampire novel. Like,
yes,
as a trope, vampires exist forever, cemented in. But the fervor around the not really a love triangle vampires, there was a different rush then. So Potter isn't so much beholden to those kind of things.
It's interesting what you're saying. So basically on the trade side, again, so like reading books, it's all reactive. Like all sales data comes from how something performs in the marketplace. It's very rare to have something break out that's a complete outlier. But when it does, everyone sort of scrambles to occupy that square on the chessboard.
Yeah.
And it's because we don't do any market research. So it's like what editors in my position have are comps. And they say, well, now we have this vampire comp and we can all sort of scramble over here to try to like get in on that. Whereas with Gift, we're looking so far in advance. So our production timeline, our comfortable production timeline is 16 months from when we give them. I know. Well, because we print overseas. So we have to leave time to freight the books. But then we also do many rounds of proofing to make sure all the colors are perfect and the paper is right and our foil is foiling and like it's so it's like it's sort
because
of this
it is
thing.
Gift, like the key word is gift. So got it. You don't want off color. You don't want the like. It's like if you were manufacturing hues and cues, you kind of want the color on the card to match the color on the board. Yeah, got it.
Yes, exactly. And it's like our quality is very important to us at Potter. Like so it's I think what happens is when we have something that is trendy or behaves like it's trendy, it's like it's such a long con that it goes around the bend and becomes prescient. and I think part of being like as a good spotter in this space, you are constantly weeding through, okay, what's going to burn out in 3 months? What's going to flare up and like go nowhere? And what's actually still going to be cool by the time I can get it in the market? And I actually think it's a great barrier to have to overcome because it also tips to that 5-year window. Because if it can overcome the sort of 2 years it takes to get it out, then it also bodes well for it continuing to sell for another 5. So,
because that 5-year model is fascinating, number one, but 2, that probably has to force a lot of really unique creativity.
It really does. Well, and the other thing that's very cool that I've had happen a bunch of times is like you will do something, it won't hit, but we'll keep the inventory. And then 2 years in, ReaderLink, which is Target or one of those accounts, will come be like, we're going to do a summer camp display. Like, what do you have? And then the summer camp journal you did 2 years ago that no one wanted, suddenly you offload like several thousand copies. So stuff like that, like I like to sort of cover my bases and have a lot of different things for a lot of different consumers because you never know who's going to need something. And I think it's an empathic process. Like the same part of me that writes different kinds of characters also thinks about the different people around the Thanksgiving table and what you would give them. And it doesn't have to be something I would want for myself. It just has to be something I could envision my father-in-law wanting or whatever.
Oh, so many great things. I love having to think in terms of like the Because I mean, even just in my work, planning out an editorial calendar for a season or for 2 seasons, for a whole year for the show, you start to think of things that always happen, right? You've got summer camp, you've got the summer camp reads, you've got the evergreen things that will always pop up that you can go back on, but
Yep.
where you get to turn the creative is when you get to decide what is my take on it this year? Like, yeah,
Yes.
every June is both audiobook month and Pride month. How am I
Yes.
making 2026 different than the years before? So I think
Yes.
it's a fun creative muscle. I'm still stuck on like the trends of how you balance the like right. We had Barbenheimer weekend, but you could still be producing Barbie because you've got collector market. You've got so many interesting opportunities that must pop up. Do you have a favorite thing that you've worked on in the last like 2 years?
Oh, I have
I guess
so
for you, I
many.
could actually ask longer
Yeah.
because you get to exist
No, you're
in
actually
titles for so
catching me
long.
at my like, basically at my 2-year anniversary of returning to Potter. Like, I
Love
came
it.
back, like, end of March in 2024. So, yeah, no, everything is really great. Like, we talked about Clarice already and Dear Love, those are amazing. I have an incredible book coming out in July. It's called How Lucky Am I? And it's this character, Mr. Skelly. I don't know if you're familiar.
I
Um,
mean, I
I'm gonna send you a link and you're gonna know this. You're gonna
okay.
know this art. It's this platform 1924. The author's Christian Watson. It's this beautiful, dreamy sort of Studio Ghibli-esque visual landscape, and this like skeleton character who just is the loveliest creature that ever walked the earth. And the book is very empowering. It's very empathic. And Christian wrote it to sort of help his kids
Yeah.
acclimate to the idea of death. So it's sort of like we're pitching it as The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, but for like a indie crowd, and but I really think anyone would like it, and it's gonna do. I don't know. It's just the most everyone who sees it like falls completely in love, and I just can't wait to shove it into everyone's hands. And we've got another book with him in a journal as well, so it's just gonna be the most beautiful set of
Yeah.
objects,
Ah,
and
that
I can't wait.
sounds
Yeah.
that sounds gorgeous. I'm a huge Studio Ghibli lover,
Okay.
and I feel a certain fondness toward the name. Uh,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, obviously.
you
Oh
said that, and
my god, of
well,
course.
I have heard the name before on my driver's license. Uh,
I love that. Yeah, so you need 100 copies of this book. You need
clearly.
autographed, like, not even autographed, you need monogrammed copies of this book.
Right, I need to start just handing them, "Oh, thank you so much for being here. This is my book that's not my book and isn't
How
about
lucky am
me."
I? There we go.
But that's I mean, but it sounds gorgeous, and that kind of mission of, like, a tough topic, but being able to do it, I think, like, that kind of, Studio Ghibli style really also lends well to hard life lessons delivered, beautifully and poignantly.
Yes. Well, and it's cool because the landscape mirrors his emotional journey. So you start out in this really quaint town, and then he ends up in a dark forest, but even the scariest scenes are not that scary. And then when he meets the wife skeleton, it's like your heart just it's like it's just so beautiful. And I'm saying wife because Christian has a wife, but like they're skeletons. So
Right,
it could be
just
two
bones.
husbands. Yeah, exactly.
Right,
And I think that comes through um in the messaging. Like it's really, really universal and just
androgynous almost.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And the sentiments transcend gender for sure.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. Before we move away from editing, what are your editing essentials? Do you have a ritual? Do you have tools, snacks, energy that you have to bring to the table when you're working on certain projects?
Um, my tools are these. They are Dream Girl earplugs,
Love it.
and I want to discorporate when I'm working, so I don't want a body. I don't wanna even hear my own typing, I just wanna focus. So, that's a big tool.
Yeah,
My dog, Freddie, who is in with my husband right now, he couldn't make this podcast, sadly, but he's a very comforting presence, and he sort of helps me feel like work isn't work, because if there's a dog sleeping next to you, like,
it's the
are
best.
you working?
Yep.
But
Yeah.
I would
Oh,
say quiet
my
is the number one thing. Yeah.
quiet is essential.
Yeah.
I always struggle with that. My dog Roscoe is at my feet right now. So if
Roscoe!
anyone hears any snoring in the background, that would be him as he gets the gentle if you're watching and you see me just kind of like flailing a little bit, I'm just trying to wake him up enough to stop the snoring.
That's amazing. What kind of dog is Roscoe?
He's a Boston Terrier, so the snores are
Cute.
real.
Cute. That's
Yes,
great.
he's a
That's
cutie.
great. Roscoe, little snorer. I know Freddie makes a lot of noise too. I have a noise machine at night that blocks out my husband, so Freddie gets like folded into that. But
Uh-huh.
I was gone last week and Kevin was like, Freddie makes a lot. I did have the noise machine on and Freddie makes a lot of noise.
You're
Like,
like,
see
"This
how
is
it
why I turn
feels?
it on." Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I have a built-in noise machine. That's what when the CPAP goes on, I'm suddenly
We have a
silent.
CPAP too. Oh my God. Celeb. Love it.
See? We're living the dream. I just like, not dying a little bit every night. I love to breathe.
The sound of your partner possibly dying is very upsetting. So it's a good built-in. You're like, put it on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I have definitely been the like, "Babe, you don't even know. You don't even know what it was
This
like
could be so
before
much worse.
when I would just
Oh,
wake up in the
oh,
middle of the night."
the most upsetting sounds
Yeah.
ever. And I feel like you're in a secret club at the airport because if you don't know what they are, you just sort of see these gray cases around
Why
and
does
like don't
everyone have
think
the
about it.
tiniest suitcase? Yeah.
Where do I get one? And then it's actually like you sort of like you're like, oh, sleep apnea. Gotcha.
Oh, absolutely. And like the death grip on it that I have. 'Cause I'm
Yes.
like, no, this is the only thing I have with me that matters is I have like recording equipment and a laptop. I'm like, nope, this is the only thing that matters.
That is so we were in a fire 10 years ago, and
Oh
the
God.
struggle the next day, the only priority was getting the CPAP. Like, we're like, "We need a replacement now."
I honestly am like, I don't know if I would have the strength within me to not run out with it. Be like,
Yeah.
you get Freddie, I'll get the CPAP. Like, I mean, honestly, I just like, we gotta go.
You and you were my yeah, it's like the firemen have hoses and you've got your hoses.
Exactly. I've got my CPAP, like firemen carrying my CPAP out. It's
We should
women,
be
children, and
sponsored.
CPAP
We
first.
we should be
Exactly.
sponsored for CPAP right now. I don't know, like
Honestly, I'm sending this out. Whoever wants to sponsor me, you'll get all the plugs you could dream of. Now, we alluded to it a little bit. I think you have found a spot in your day-to-day, like your 9 to 5 career to make sure you're not burning out your creative energy. You're not giving your ideas to someone's fiction manuscript. But how do you balance and make space for your own writing while working full-time?
well, so I guess it depends on how you define a balanced life. Like,
Yeah,
because
well, yeah.
one person looking at me would be like, "Well, you don't." Um,
I mean, I get it.
and I guess the answer is I love to work. So
Mhm.
I do my job until 5. I would take Freddie for a walk. That's a little bit of a reset. And then I'll typically write until like 9 and eat somewhere in there. So maybe 3 hours a night when it's sort of a drafting period. And then if it's a revision period, which is that's the part where I really go into sort of the trance and like time is meaningless and I spend an hour revising a single word. That part is harder, but that
Yeah.
becomes like you're just working 7 days a week and trying to like force yourself to like do important things like stand up once an hour and occasionally
Hello,
work
Apple
out.
Watch.
Yeah,
Get up.
I yeah, even like you know what? Even if you can't afford an Apple Watch, it's like get a timer. Like just set like
Truly.
it. Also looking away from the screen, that's the other piece. It's like you get eye problem. It's like writing is
Right.
so good for your skin and so bad for everything else. So I
Truly.
think it's like for me, it's I think of it almost like a sport or like an athletic activity. There is an aspect of writing that's also about sort of staying in shape and maintaining routine and having your grid, as Julia Cameron would say.
Mhm.
So for me, that includes like making sure I get a walk every day, which is just like imaginative time.
Sure.
Where I'm not being responsible to anyone, I'm not being viewed by anyone. Like I'm just alone in my thoughts, listening to like crappy pop from the early aughts, as much as I want.
You're not gonna get any complaints from me on that one.
And I do morning pages, which is a really important transitionary tool. Like you can use it for anything. You can use it for imposter syndrome. You can use it to like blow off steam. But the things you can do to sort of like, if you think about the writing mindset as almost like a deep yoga pose, it's figuring out ways you can get in and out of that posture as quickly and safely as possible. So yeah, it's
Training your
easier.
body to be like, we have an hour to write,
Yep.
get in the zone, and
Yes.
then I need to get back to life, release. Got it.
Yes, exactly, exactly. It's interesting because in the beginning, you are carrying the book, and then you birth it, and then it sort of follows you around for a couple years. It's your little whale baby, and then eventually you let it swim away, which is next week for me. I know, it's crazy.
That's gotta be nuts.
It's gonna be crazy, but I'm excited, and I'm excited to let my little whale baby have its life.
Yeah.
But as it gets more independent, it's sort of like it goes away for longer periods of time and comes back. So, like,
Mhm.
the whole editing process is like my editor will have it for 2 months, and my editor, Natalie, gets a shout out. She's a genius, and she's incredibly creative, and she's very generous with her ideas, unlike me.
Sure. And that's why she's in fiction.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But yeah, so she'd take it, give it back, and then, like, as we get into passes, get into the like, I get smaller and smaller windows with it, and it becomes more and more final, and, like, seeing it printed for the first time, I burst into tears because it's, like, it's
Sure.
so much time. It was 5 years between my first book and my second, but it's also, like, it's final, like, they're pulp now, like, they're no longer here at all.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, like,
it's intense.
you can't be making any changes at that point.
Like, technically, I could. So
Like,
this is the part
not any major ones,
not
I
before it
mean.
publishes, yeah.
Right.
Like, here's an insider tip for you authors, like, you can do a reprint correction if you need it. Like, if you find something that keeps you up at night in your book, you can absolutely request a reprint correction. But this is, again, something I have to give Natalie huge credit for. We went through every sentence of this book, and most of them we kept, but it was this amazing exercise of being like, "Are you willing to stand by this?" essentially, and so I feel
Sure.
very confident in it. We were very rigorous, and it's a beautiful story.
So tell us now about Into the Blue. Let the listeners know what they can expect. What's the heart of this story?
Okay. Into the Blue is an epic love story between AJ Graves and Noah Drew. They meet in a video store in the year 2000. They're working there. And the story follows them for 13 years. So you get to see them working at the video store, and then you get to see them eventually making content for film and television. And they have this unbelievable connection that is pretty much there from the beginning, but through forces beyond their control, they are separated. And over the 13 years, they never stop longing for each other. And it's really just about this like cosmic, beautiful bond between two flawed people who are trying to explore their lives and figure out who they are.
Where did I'm like I can't even give any good follow up to that because right it's just beautiful, but where did the idea first come from, and what made this story something you like had to tell next?
I think there were a few different
Hmm.
knocks at the door. Like I over the summer of 2022, I got really into reading Reylo fan fiction. So that's Rey and Kylo Ren from Star Wars.
Sure.
And it had been a tough summer. Like my mother-in-law died, and I was just like looking for any kind of escape. And I had loved fan fiction when I was little, and I just kind of like reverted. And so I love their dynamic. Like I love the force Skyping. I love the epicness of their bond. And I love how they're these opposites, like the unstoppable force and the immovable object. Like there's just a lot there. And I sort of knew I wanted to do something like that. But I wanted to do it in a contemporary setting. Like I'm not saying I'll never write sci-fi, but that wasn't really what I wanted to do. But then I got another sci-fi knock while we were watching an episode of Castle. This is about 6 months later. And at this point, I know who Noah is, who's my MMC. I know he's a great actor from a family of actors, but I have no idea what to do with him. And we're watching Castle, the ABC murder show,
Of
and
course.
it's this episode, The Final Frontier, which is about a fake space opera, Nebula 9, and it's directed by Jonathan Frakes, who plays Riker in Star Trek, The First Mate, and obviously Nathan Fillion is like, saying this for your non-sci-fi listeners,
Right.
he Nathan Fillion, who is Castle before that, he was Mal Reynolds on Firefly. And
As if I wasn't on Tumblr in 2012.
Of course you were. So anyway, it was just this like very in-world episode that like only a complete nerd would understand, but I'm that, and I was so into it, and I loved the feeling of this sort of homecoming of like, I'd stumbled into a room where I spoke the language. And the last knock, because I started thinking about, how do I write a show? I want to give this to people. I want to write my own fandom, like, and maybe Noah's in that, and maybe so is his great aunt. Maybe it's like a multi-generational franchise. Like I started spinning. And so I spun for another 6 months. And then I was in San Francisco with one of my best friends who is not a sci-fi watcher. And it was during Scandival.
Oh, yes.
Yes, the crazy drama with Vanderpump Rules. And I am not a reality TV watcher. So she explained the whole thing to me about how basically it's like this show that's been on for 10 years. And the quote unquote reality of the show was breaking down because people were like going off.
Actual reality was happening.
Actual reality was coming through. And suddenly I was like, oh, I can figure out a way to do this.
Yeah.
So it was like all three of these things, these pieces kind of fit together. And the way that I decided to make it happen was by having the characters be really gifted improvisers. So that became like the life force of their bond and also of all the media that they generate. And it was just a complete blast from there.
The idea that this is inspired by like Castle and Scandival is incredible, but also makes so much sense. I mean, I meet and learn who these people in reality TV are either via Trixie and Katya on their podcast, because, you know, Trixie's friends with Lisa Vanderpump, or while watching The Traitors when I'm like, I don't know who Big Brother is. I don't know what a Survivor is. But then you meet these people and I'm like, Love Island, where is that? Like,
yeah.
But then you meet these people and you go like, okay, well, now I know who the Snake Boy is and what drama is happening at this club that no longer exists. Like, it's just, it's fantastic.
It's delicious, yeah.
I mean, I get why people are obsessed with it. What was some of your favorite kind of like reality bits to bring into the novel?
So the second part of the book, it's in 4 parts, is set on a show that is basically, it's a space opera, but it's filmed like a reality TV show. So they're in a panopticon. There are cameras everywhere, but they're not necessarily hovering right in front of your face. Like they're in the walls of the set. This I did because I wanted their interactions to feel spontaneous and visceral the way it feels on reality TV. And I wanted there to be the illusion of them being alone some of the time, while also then creating something where there could be a fandom afterwards. So it had to be recorded.
Mm-hmm.
And so the stuff that I just liked including like the different tricks that they use where they'll show like a clip of something, but like with a different sound bite so that it becomes this sort of venomous, poisonous thing when it's really just a clip of someone walking into the house. And I liked the sort of idea of like the producers who you get to know, just herding the different people together and getting to see like, you know, how the living situation and the drama that happens there starts to play out in the show as well was really fun. And it's never really clear like what the groupings are on the living situation or if that was intentional.
I don't know. Like, I want to hear from an anthropologist in the future who's like, this is how reality TV impacted all of us, because there is something about the sauce that like we just finished watching all of America's Next Top Model.
So fun.
And I think about like how then this was real. None of this was, we don't think of it like, we weren't aware of production.
No.
And now, of course, Top Model is a terrible example because a lot of awful things got washed nicely. So thanks to the series for that. But like, I even think of like early Drag Race before they had to have confessional looks because they would be cutting them together from 8 different days the whole time they were there. And
Yes.
now you will never be able to tell when someone recorded that soundbite, that talking head. And I think that's such a smart choice as like, yes, the fourth part is reality TV, but it is not like it's not like pandering to reality TV. It's the like this is the next step. This is like future telling.
Right. I mean, it's better than AI, right? It's like,
Right?
I
Please.
think there is a Clue show in development actually that is gonna. I don't know if they're using cameramen or if they're using like planted cameras, but the idea is
Oh,
that they're gonna have characters in the like people in character from Clue improvising and like acting as if it's a reality show. So you're sort of attending a murder mystery party as like a voyeur. And it's a really similar premise for Into the Blue. Um, where it's like people who are given a part and then they have to act it out, but everything they do is like layered and spontaneous. And I think what's fun too is like we get to meet the fandom from Into the Blue eventually.
uh-huh.
And it's cool to see because you've experienced the whole thing like through the actor's eyes. So it's
Right.
cool to get to meet the fans and see how this stuff that was just like a one-off line or whatever has become like gilded and deified and like has
Yeah.
become like doctrine.
Right.
Um
That's the merch. Like that's on the shirt. That's
yes.
every like third meme is that quote. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So, and I love all that stuff. So
Oh yeah.
that was really fun. It was fun to get to like visit all these places and like meet the fans and like via AJ and Noah. Yeah, and it's great. It's also, like it's weird because you wouldn't necessarily think that, like, a throbbing, intense love story and romance would be happening amid all of this, but it
Right.
actually lent itself to it very well. Because I think that when you're in love, you feel like you're the only person on the planet, or you feel like you're in a new universe all of a sudden, and so
Right.
it does work on sort of a metaphoric level as well, and it creates the sense like you are being transported emotionally, but you're also being transported to this, like, galaxy far, far away.
I think it's also the hope we all have when you watch reality TV for the escapism, like early seasons of The Bachelor. That's what we wanted. We wanted the love to be real. We wanted
Yes.
that to be the case versus now when
Yes.
it's to make an influencer. But like so I think this also harkens back to a lot of the wish fulfillment we all had initially.
Yes. No, exactly, and it's interesting because like and it totally is wish fulfillment because it's like, I understand that the actors who play these parts on the shows are not actually in love, but yes, I do want it to be real, and I do want it to like, this
They
is
do really
completely
want to
me
find
as
love. Yeah.
right, like, me as a fan wanting the ships that I love to actually happen, and in
Uh-huh.
this fantasy, it's like they have a bond from teenage to for their we follow them from when they're teenagers until they're in their 30s. So it's like, it is real and it's earned, but it is also that wish fulfillment of, like, they actually are in love in the show and in real life, which is what I always want.
And only a fan fiction girly can give us that.
Yeah. It's a departure from the Nancy Drew fan fiction I normally write, but
Well, some of us want to solve murders and crimes too.
she just has great accessories.
I mean, please give me that wardrobe.
Yeah, totally.
What did the writing process for this book look like? How long did you work on it?
As I said, I started thinking about it in, like, 2022. There was, like, about a year of thinking, and then, I started actually writing in July of 2023. My first draft took me 5 months, and then I took about a month off. Then
Okay.
and it was about 150,000 words, which is, like, very long. Like, this book sort of came out just big boned.
Yeah.
Then I did a second draft where I knew the characters by then. Like, I went in and I really knew Noah, who's my male character. Like, he's a very intuitive fit for me. I didn't really understand AJ, whose perspective we're in, for the
Yeah.
first draft. Like, I was really getting to know her. And then I came back to the second draft and I was like, okay, now I know AJ, let's do this. And it came out at 180,000 words. So basically, way too long. That is twice the length of a real book. So from there, it was this process of just like working with my team to cut it down to size in
Mhm.
ways that felt like it kept the emotional punch while
Right.
also making it as courteous to a reader as possible. Because if a book is that long, like that's about the writer, that's not about the reader.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we call
That's
this
right.
version like
It gets a little vanity at that point. Totally.
it totally does. And I get it. And it's like, I don't want to read, I didn't want to leave them. And I think whenever I read reviews that are like, I didn't want this to end, I'm like, you're my person. Like I fully am living there with you.
But it's also how you know that, like, you hit the right spot where you're
Yeah, we
like,
ended right.
we
Exactly.
got right to the point we
We got
needed
out.
to be at. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you're gonna keep thinking about it, not going like, all right, let's wrap it up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. Like, oh, skimming.
Right.
So all in all, that whole process, like once we were collaborating, took another like year and a half. And we really wrapped it up last November, like right before Thanksgiving.
Okay. Wow. Did
Yeah.
your editor brain ever get in the way?
Oh, yeah. I was oh my god, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think there's a reason I wrote a book that is about improv. So I haven't done improv in, like, 15 years. Like, I
Okay.
I did it when I first came to the city. I was part of UCB, like, just
Yeah.
the broader community, and I loved it. I was fascinated by the improvisers. Like, I think they're just there's so much about what they do, like, the trust and the
Yes.
vulnerability that, like, I couldn't at that age, but was, like, deeply interested in. And then I forgot about it. I moved on. I did other things for 10 years. And I think like it was a direct relationship, a direct answer to my editor brain being hypercritical after my first book, feeling like I couldn't do anything that was good, like just like the inner critic, as they say, was just OOC, out of control.
Yeah.
And I think revisiting improv through these characters and like I think it came out so long because I was literally teaching myself how to play again in the
Uh,
aftermath of the pandemic, in the aftermath of my first book, in the aftermath of my mother-in-law's death, like, it was just
right.
it was this moment of, like, starting to feel safe again, and I don't think it was an accident that those things sort of cross-pollinated.
That makes so much sense, and it's I love hearing when you kind of hit that healing in the journey as well, that it wasn't just a matter of, like, I had a story in my head that I had to get out, or I wanted to do this because I wanna be a writer, like, it's I don't know, I love that added layer of, like and don't get me wrong, the people who are writing to write, great. You're reading books
Yes.
you're writing books I wanna read, love that. I'll take all the content and eat it up you wanna give me, but
Yes.
when you get to hear the conversation and be like, "Oh, no, this was more than just an idea. It also the process changed you."
Oh, yeah. I mean, there really wasn't one part of my life that wasn't changed by writing this book, if I'm being totally open with you. Like, I think, like, at various points, like, it's like when I started this book, I had a different agent and a different editor. I had a different job.
Wow.
Like, my husband
Yeah.
is the only survivor. And we still had a lot of hard conversations.
I bet, I
Um,
bet.
so I don't want every book I write to be that disruptive, but I do think having these characters and their challenge is being true to themselves. Like ultimately, like that's the main question that both of them are asking, but they're coming at it from different angles. And I think you can't be that close to people that are doing that work and not have to ask yourself some questions as well.
Right. It's impossible. It's, like, just the same way that it's, like, impossible to go to a funeral and not think about death and dying. Like,
Yes.
when hard work is being done one way or another, eh,
Yes.
you're kicking up the dirt. Like, the dust is unsettled and things have to happen before everyone can kind of, like, get back into their usual or find even the new groove.
Yes. Well, and this is what I love about sci-fi and fantasy is that
Yeah.
it's the tradition is you are examining very terrestrial problems in an allegory. So you're
Yes.
getting to like look at politics or this and that like but it's transposed onto like aliens or what have you. So there's a lot in the book where, the sci-fi is used and the improv and theater as like a mechanism for taking a longer lens on things when they're getting too heavy. Like the end
Mhm.
of it, like really AJ and Noah at their core, like they have their most honest conversations on stage, like, right through the end of the book.
Yeah.
So I love that because there's an Emily Dickinson quote, "Tell the truth, but tell it slant." And I feel like it's the same
Yeah.
thing as, like, having a hard conversation in the car where the person's next to you and you don't have to make eye contact. Like, I think it's very true to life that people can't always be completely direct, but they do find ways of communicating when they love each other, and I love that.
Oh, what a good, like, button to end on there.
Okay.
I I'm gonna hit you with a quick lightning round before
Okay.
I let you go. Um,
Okay.
Dream, author, or IP to edit. Could be living or dead, could be any product.
Oh my god. I mean, so I'm getting to work on a Star Trek book, so my dream has actually kind of come true.
Love.
Yeah, it's a how-to guide from Data, which is Brent Spiner's character.
Incredible.
I'm so excited for it.
Incredible. Oh, oh, did you get to work with anyone that you were like on this? Or like
Um,
any conversations that just made you go,
it's still in development, so
got it,
we haven't really cracked ground on it yet. I'm still just like,
understood.
yeah, starry-eyed about it, but yeah,
What
I
a
can't wait.
dream.
Yeah.
Um, well, I guess that kind of goes into like book you wish you could edit just to like, this could be a book that already exists. So
Okay.
something that you wish you had the chance to be like, what were you thinking about? What were you in the midst of when working on this?
Madeline Miller, Song of Achilles.
Hell yeah. We know you like silence, but
Yeah.
do you ever have to like set a vibe? Is there anything you turn to when you need a little noise?
Yeah. I mean, I really do genuinely listen to Bubblegum early odds. Like, I wasn't being cute about that. So I love Mandy Moore's album So Real. Like, I go into a weird trance when I listen to that album.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Backstreet Boys Millennium. Weirdly, like Counting Crows films about ghosts, like that entire album, like I just love it. And so those are the things that sort of like lull me. Like they make me calm. It's like they're on, but they're not on. Like
Oh, I get it. That's why my, like, Apple Music Wrapped was a mess because I tried a single Sabrina Carpenter and I went, "Oh, this just, like this is my trance music when I need to get a bunch of things done."
yeah,
And so now songs from Lovely Little Blonde Girl are, like, painted in the walls of my brain
forever. Yeah, they're never coming out.
forever.
Sorry. She's
I
moved in.
and I'm okay with that. She can do the house tour. It's scary in there. Uh Well, Emma, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun.
Well, thank you for that. And listeners, you can check out Into the Blue now, all the wonderful places you get your books. There will be links in the episode description. Thank you so much for joining us today and happy reading. You can sample and borrow the books from today's episode in the Libby app, or if you're a librarian, find them for purchase in Overdrive Marketplace. Book Lounge by Libby is a proud Evergreen Podcast signature program. Explore more amazing shows at evergreenpodcasts.com. This podcast is produced and recorded by me, Joe Skelly, with editing by Andrew Alonso. Our theme music is High Five by Rex Banner, used with permission. Book Lounge by Libby is presented by the Libby app. Learn more at libbylife.com/booklounge.